Well, this is a tough one because I am usually tolerant of just taking our time and building up the story. I think with Andor, it's pretty appropriate pace. With Rings of Power, I agree they could have rushed things, but I'm okay that they built it up slowly because it appears that powder keg has been set up. It will explode. But this one felt kind of curious because I thought last episode was the build up episode. This one felt like another build up episode. I was, for the most part, frankly, very bored. And I didn't even mind the childbirth metaphor. But after a while, it really did get old. They just had one scene after the other of childbirth is painful. Okay, got it. More on childbirth being painful. Right. I understand. Patriarchy. Got it. And then another scene. Childbirth is painful. I'm like, okay, I think we covered this. The major metaphor and theme of the episode kind of got old for me really, really quickly. And the other things that were meant to compensate didn't do too much to compensate. But I don't want to be too vindictive. There was actually a lot of good stuff. I'd say the best thing was the emergence of a basically new Littlefinger. That was very well set up. That was patiently put together. And Viserys, for lack of a better word, degenerating. I think the makeup and costume and the acting by Patty was very, very sad, but very convincing, and him basically slowly destroying himself. So that was very impressive. So there, the time jump wasn't too bad, but I think for too many of the other relationships, they felt like aliens. Cole, he's really shifted allegiances and just comes off as a, well, no pun intended, a dark knight. So him being more vicious, okay, I can understand that, but it still felt a little forced. But in too many other places, it just really I couldn't recognize the characters anymore. I get it, we have to do the time jump, but it just felt way too radical. And so the shifting didn't make a whole lot of sense. But I did like some parts. For instance, the jokes actually were surprisingly good early on. So some of the scenes were very well structured with the jokes. There were some bad jokes, of course, but then the dialogue for half of the episode was kind of flat. But then it improved markedly in the second half. And that was really, really good. Even when it was melodramatic, I did believe it. So that was a big bonus. Even though there were good individual scenes, there were really a lot of bad individual scenes. So, for instance, Matt Smith in the library, I thought that was pretty intriguing. I thought that was a very good change of pace for Damon and framing him a little bit differently. The dragon writing was pretty silly in my eyes, but I think it was helpful to building the character, although the way it was resolved later, I think, was very laughable. For instance, right after Rhaenyra gives birth, she goes to see Alicent. Why? I mean, the directing was actually spectacular, the way the camera fluidly went from one place to the other, but on the other hand, you're like, why are you going to go see Alicent? You should just be resting. And I didn't like how Laenor was being just talked to for too many scenes. I thought that was really getting old, but it's good that they had him fight back. He was very verbally astute. I thought the conversation between him and Renaria later on in the episode was very well done. I thought that was very interesting. It seems like an open secret that Laenor is who he is. These children can't possibly be his, so what is going on? But as I've noted in the other reviews, this doesn't really make sense even as a premise because in this universe of Game of Thrones, people take for granted people commit adultery. We all know there are bastards all over the place, so why is this a big deal? I don't have a clue. And then there was a kind of minor problem that, again, following the show, certain people have immunity to certain things. I'm just going to leave it there. But then here, it seems they're vulnerable again. You're like, okay, I understand with Daenerys, they messed it up. Like, Daenerys should not be that powerful in Game of Thrones. But now that they committed that, it does seem the show is trying to work canon of Game of Thrones. So it's a little confusing how weak or powerful people are. It's very mixed. It just seems we were wasting a lot of time again introducing new people and setting up situations. And I get it that the characters already shifted a little bit, but I still found we needed a little bit more time with Millie to establish that Rhaenyra is so pragmatic and bloody minded. We just have to take for granted that's the new status quo, but it just didn't seem to me to be sold very well. I will say the ending did redeem a lot of what was happening, but then the follow up was very poor. So, for instance, there's a very shocking scene, which I won't describe, but I was like, whoa, I can't believe this person did that. And then he even assassinates somebody. I'm like, okay, this person has a lot of credibility now. That was very well done. But then there were some other scenes that were just frankly laughable. You're like, wait, what? And there's just a moment where a child basically gives out a massive secret, and you're like, wait, how do you know this? Is this common knowledge now? The whole point of the episode is it's not common knowledge, but apparently it is common knowledge. So there were just so many things that just didn't add up all over the place, but it is a good episode. Most of the things here were strong, like the music, the direction, even the writing. It's kind of improved, but it was very mixed all over the place. But there were some intriguing twists. But for every good twist, there was one twist that was just so laughable or just so stupid, and I don't think that's what they were going for. It was meant to be tragic, but I still found it pretty laughably stupid. I'm still going to give this a positive score to be consistent because I've been patient with Rings of Power, so I should be a little patient here. But it did feel like same thing with Rings of Power. They should have just combined this episode and the last episode to one better episode. Just make it a little bit longer. We just stretched things out for 2 episodes for no reason. All right, so I'm going to give this a 7.25. I think I'm being generous because there were a lot of flaws, but again, the emergence of the quote new Littlefinger really did a lot, and he established his credibility very firmly. So that was really interesting. But as far as the key players, so far I don't really care about Alicent, and I don't care about Rhaenyra, and I don't care about their children. And that's where I stand with Hot D at the moment.